So now that we're in summer, the run clubs that I go to, I've been having a lot of people show up at them. And I've been asking as many people as I can the same question: why do you come to the runs? And the answers I get usually start the same. People talk about the fitness, they want something social to do at night, they're looking for a little bit more structure in their training. But when I push deeper, I start to find more interesting answers. People will say stuff like, well, I've been doing this for about a year now and I've lost a lot of weight and I want to keep going. Or I've made a bunch of friends doing this and we do races together now and this is how we prepare for them. So while everybody I've talked to has had different reasons for showing up, they all seem to kind of end in the same place. They came to the run clubs because the running was the obvious connection, but over time, running stopped being the thing they do and it started being who they are. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Daniel Steamer. I'm a multi-certified endurance sports coach specializing in running for adults. I've personally run over 130 races myself, including 3 marathons, 2 ultras, and now 4 half Ironman, and I'm currently preparing for my first full Ironman later this year. And I work with everyday adult athletes, teaching them the same techniques I use to cross finish lines from their first race to their biggest adventures. That's what this channel is all about. So today I want to talk about the shift that happens when running moves from just being a workout to being a lifestyle. Most people don't plan for it this way. They're not thinking that far ahead when they start running, but it is something that happens if you stick with it long enough. And understanding how it happens is the difference between somebody who follows a short-term plan to chase a bucket list race and somebody who runs for life, finding it transforming everything about who they are. So with no judgment, I have found that most people start running with it because of a transactional mindset. They got something like a scare at their doctor's appointment, or they did a weigh-in on their scale and didn't like the number, or a friend pressured them into joining them for a race. And so they're doing this because they want to get something out of it. The running is just a means to an end. And this was true for me as well. About 7 years ago, I didn't like my weight. I didn't like how inactive I was. And I was kind of scared about the future I was creating for myself. And the thing is when people make that decision to get active, a lot of the modern fitness culture kind of reinforces this transactional mindset. Things like programs built around before and after mentality, bucketing things in short-term 8-week, 12-week programs, race training plans that end the moment the race happens. The entire framework is transactional. It's not about the journey, it's about the promise of what you'll get at the end if you stick with the program. The moment you get that thing, or you decide you're not going to chase it anymore, running no longer has a reason to exist in your life. And I've seen this pattern enough times now in different people to know what it looks like. Several weeks of consistency until you hit your goal, then give up those new habits, fall back to your old defaults for a few months until something scares you again to take action, and then you just repeat. The running workout was always contingent on something else, some other external driving force. And when that thing goes away, so does your drive to run. And the people who stay in that loop of work, hit a goal, fall off, come back a few months later, never find out what's on the other side. They never get to experience the joy of just running for the sake of running because they've actually built a strong fitness base. But here's the counterintuitive part. To go beyond that cycle and really embrace the runner lifestyle, most people think they have to feel like a runner first, that they have to be strongly motivated and driven and have this brand new identity to really go to that next level. But that's not how it works. Identity follows behavior, not the other way around. And this is pretty consistent with anything you're trying to do in your life. You become a runner by running. If you do it long enough, it stops being something you think about and you will just mentally adopt that identity of being somebody who does this thing. You just go and do it. You stop negotiating with yourself about why. And the reason I mentioned run clubs at the start is because the social piece can accelerate this. When you surround yourself with people who have the identity you want, it becomes so much easier for you to absorb it as well. Show up enough times with people who talk about races and running and their personal motivations for why they do this, and something inside you will shift. Running will just stop being an activity you think about doing, and it'll just start being a world you belong to. The people I've been talking to at my run clubs didn't set out with the intention of making running their identity. They came to the run clubs because they wanted to work out. They wanted to lose weight. They wanted more structure in their week. They wanted some social interaction. But they kept showing up. They got to know the people they were running with. They got to learn about running from different perspectives. They started texting each other between runs, getting to know people at a personal level. They went to races to cheer on friends in races they weren't running. They learned and developed opinions about recovery and gear, all the little intricacies of running. They developed opinions about gear and recovery and how to handle mile 18 in a race, the types of things you really only care about if you are a runner. And at some point, the run club stopped being a place they just went to run and started being a place that they went to because they belonged. Their identity as a runner grew quietly in the background that whole time. They just kept showing up until it was a part of who they were. Even for myself, I can't point to the exact moment my identity shifted from somebody who didn't consider themselves a runner, even though I was doing the activity, to somebody who considered themselves a runner for life. But when I can identify is when I look back that things have changed. There was a point in time where I dreaded running, and now I love it. There was a point in time where I thought a 5K was the toughest race I could do. Now that's a warm-up for me. There was a time when I would have to think about how much prep it would take to get ready for a race. Now, depending on the distance, I don't even think about it. There was no decision along the way where one day I just said, you know what? Today I am now officially a runner. It's just something I became after years of doing this. And all the people I'm talking about who have already made this shift went through the same thing. There was no decision point where they just said, you know what? Today I'm a runner. But if they look back at who they were months ago, years ago, they'll notice the same thing. There was a point in time where they were scared of something, and now they're not. And when did that change happen? Don't know, somewhere in between. But what helped them is that they found a context where being a runner was the default mindset, a club, a group run, a race, and they stayed with it long enough until they absorbed that mindset themselves. And they kept going past their original goal. The 12-week program to get them ready for a 5K was done, but they kept running anyways. And that's the moment when a person has broken out of the transactional view of fitness. They're no longer doing the thing to get an outcome. They're doing it because it's just the thing they do. It's something they enjoy. Anybody who ends up this way didn't plan it this way. It just happened because they didn't stop. When they reached their outcome, they just kept going. Nobody wakes up one day and just declares themselves a runner. It doesn't work that way. It happens in the accumulated miles over time, showing up on the early mornings, going on the group runs, challenging yourself with races, and you don't notice it happening. You just look up one day and realize the question of why you do this is because it's just who you are. So have you made the shift yet? Or are you still waiting to feel like a runner before you start? If you find this kind of content useful, please subscribe. My goal with this channel is simple: to give everyday adult athletes the information they need to train well and live their biggest adventures.